We'll get started and get going on this again. Appreciate your time. I know everyone is busy, and I really appreciate you taking the time to join me here today. So, is the challenge in business convincing clients to, come to, to be able to be convinced in a meeting, or is the challenge rather, being able to convince a prospect to meet with you? For most, convincing the prospect to be a client, that's not the challenge. Most are very good. You're probably very good at what you do, and you very likely have a compelling message. Finding prospects who will actually listen to you, that really is where where the bottleneck of all of this tends to stem from. So the question: do you have a compelling message? Think about what is the secret sauce in the product or service that you're offering. And all the conversations, thousands of them over the years, I've heard some amazing approaches to the product or service. What is it that you're doing different? And I hear an awful lot of that. And so much then goes into the work of finding that one new prospect who will take the time to listen. And therein lies the challenge, doesn't it? What methods do you use for prospecting? Are they working for you? And what methods have you tried before? Cold calling, door knocking, flyers, social media, seminars, asking for referrals, lead generation consultants. The number one most important and often most difficult thing to do in business and with business professionals is that need to find new clients. Right? Would you agree with that? And a way to create a consistent supply of new clients to get in front of. This is that constant roller coaster that I see business professionals going through each and every day and every week. I'm going up the hill and things are going great, and I have some prospects, and then they fall off and I go back down to the bottom again. And it's that constant struggle of being able to fill that funnel. I hear that from almost every business person that I speak to. The number two thing that I hear is that when, most business professionals, when they meet face to face, then it normally goes pretty well. Again, the problem is not the meeting. It lies in the process of getting more meetings. So ask yourself this: if you were able to meet with as many clients as you wanted to, who got to know you and your process and actually listen to you, and we'll talk about that coming up in a couple of moments' time, how would your business be impacted if you had a consistent supply of, qualified new clients, right? The challenge of sales as well, it's very much rooted in the psychology of human behavior. I've been studying the science of human behavior for the vast majority of my adult life. And in order to have that initial conversation, you need to get by, we all do, to get by that innate built-in mechanism that protects us from being sold. When someone knocks on your door and they're holding a clipboard, when a salesman walks over to you on a car lot, how do you react? Well, you pull back and you begin to filter what that person is saying with skepticism. And with electronics and social media today, the fact that the public is just so inundated with so many sales messages. I read a survey not that long ago that stated that the average person, it's now estimated they encounter between 6,000 to 10,000 ads every single day. 6,000 to 10,000 ads. We've come a long way from the Fuller brush salesman knocking on your door, and people used to open it and invite them in. But those days have changed. So there's no surprise really then that we need to do something very different. And again, the goal is to find a solution that will allow you to have more prospects and more of those people to, actually take that time to listen to you. So informed, it's a completely different approach to business development and completely alters the perception of your potential client. That's where the majority of the win in this comes from, I'll be honest. We know how we react, right? When someone's trying to sell us. How do you react? When someone knocks on your door or approaches you in a sale, on a used car lot, and someone walks over, how do you approach? How do you react, rather? The next question is, how do you react when you're watching someone being interviewed, right? So that's very different, because in an interview, no one is talking to you. You're merely looking over their shoulder and listening and taking in what's being discussed. Informed is a marketing strategy that has never been done like this before. And the reason is that it allows you to cover all the key points to what makes you special in your business and your products and services. And this has absolutely nothing to do with sales. And so the person who is, watching this interview, they're not being pitched and they're not being sold, because they're watching an interview. People, tune into, to see Joe Rogan and all of the great guests that he has on his podcast. And many, many times people will go and try and look up and find out more information about those guests, right? Because the interview was compelling. And that's what this is about. So what it does is it allows you to deliver what you would tell clients in a first meeting and actually have them listen to you, right? Because it is in an interview format. So it changes the dynamic completely. One critical element of this also is the need for total credibility. The person watching must believe that it's just an interview and not a sales tool. So here's how it works. We meet to talk about what you do, how you do it, what you share with clients in a first meeting, and most importantly, to then really drill down and find out the solution that you provide or the knowledge that you share that is so important to your clients. I mean, think about it. If if and when you have that chance to sit down with a client and they're relaxed and they listen to you, and the wonderful things that you provide in your products and services, is it much more likely that those people are going to to then believe you? And the answer is yes. So with all of this information, we then go on and choose a topic of the interview. So again, this is not an infomercial about you in the interview. It's about the topic, and you are being brought in as the guest expert, and the solution that you provide, and then identify the structure of the interview so that you're able to provide answers that mirror your initial conversation with a prospect. So in the development of the scripting of this, we would find out basically, could I ask people to, if possible, if you could mute your microphones? It just makes it a little easier to listen to. Thank you. So, we would sit down and have this conversation and say, let's reverse engineer it so that we will ask you the questions that allow you to deliver those key points that you typically deliver in a first meeting. So after our first meeting, the interview questions are then written. They're then shared with you. We discuss it and address any changes, and then book the interview itself. And so this is not a scripted discussion. This is a discussion. And again, after all, you are the expert, but there are no tough questions because you are the expert, and it's been discussed in advance. We'll then help you with location, lighting, and sound to make sure that it looks good. By the way, it does matter because people do judge us every day, and so making certain that the interview looks good is an important part of it as well. The interview is then recorded. It then goes into post-production, and it's uploaded, providing you with a link to it. And from that point on, you will start to use it as a marketing tool, as marketing and sharing it with as many people as you would like. And the next step is to assist you with the strategies, again, on how to best utilize this. Again, the goal is to have new prospects watch the interview, allowing you to cover everything you say in a first client meeting, with the prospect being completely unguarded. Key. That's so important to this process. The interview will then be shared with current clients, current prospects, as well as all of your personal business contacts. And you'll also be able to use this for an ongoing LinkedIn strategy. There has been a training program for LinkedIn to use this informed marketing interview for you. We'll provide the training, follow-up, and support. You'll be enrolled into that training program that will allow you to create an endless funnel of new prospects. And the absolute game changer is what you say when you share it. Instead of saying, I have some great information on this solution, instead of that, you say, I'm hoping that you can do me a favor. I was just interviewed by a well-known Canadian broadcaster, Taylor, on a show called Informed. Have to admit that I was a little bit nervous, and I'm hoping that you can watch it and let me know how you think I did. It's just a few minutes long. I really appreciate your honest feedback. And in doing that, the person is going to watch the interview. They're not being sold anything. You're sharing this information with them and asking them specifically, can you provide some information and let me know how I did? Was I kind of nervous in being able to do this? So this is where the buy-in comes from. This is what I did for 20 years in major market across this country, in radio and television, the places that I worked, probably, delivered thousands, probably 10,000 interviews over those 20 years in radio and television. And it will give the viewer and you instant credibility because this is being seen as a media interview. What this also does is this makes you the expert. 20 years in broadcasting. I had the ability and capacity. I would tell Mario, my producer, I want to get this person to interview. And I could have anyone I wanted to be interviewed. And the public perception always was that whoever it was that was on my show and that I was interviewing, this person must be the best, right? People who are interviewed in the media are perceived as being the best. Listen, it may not be true. It may not be fair. But it's how they're viewed by the public. And being perceived as the expert is so important in this. People want to do business with the best. Like it or not, the media sells. I had a client years ago living up in Aurelia, was working with him as a private client and, business development strategies back then, and came up with the idea for him to approach the local newspaper and write a little piece in it, a little information piece on questions in financial services that he would write each week. And his picture was there in the newspaper every week. And very, very soon he became a recognized face around the city. Why? Because he was writing a column on financial services. Was he by far the smartest and best in financial services? He was a good guy. He was smart, right? Was he the best? That became the perception. And so that is so important in this process, that this is seen as a media interview. If I didn't have this, it wouldn't have the same kind of clout. I'll be very honest. So the process involves meeting to determine the content of what our interview would be, the solution you provide, and what you want to really discuss in a first client meeting to convince them to become a client. The intention is also to get the viewer to really get to know you, what you offer, and what makes you special. Your interview is then recorded. It goes into post-production for editing, and it's then provided to you. And again, as I mentioned earlier, you'll also receive an ongoing 6-month training program into LinkedIn called the Perpetual Funnel System, as well as access to myself throughout the entire process and beyond for that 6-month period for one-on-one assistance and coaching. In what I do, I've always focused on making my training affordable. I've had probably more than 100 conversations with business owners and sales professionals, and their feedback on this system. And again, it's, this is about return on investment. So if it got you 6 or 8 or 10 new clients in a year, what's the return on that? And so their feedback on the investment from the people that I, did a focus group with was in the $3,000 to $10,000 range for a program like this. They thought that was, what the market would bear. I've decided again to make it affordable, and so I'm keeping it at $2,500. This will give you unlimited use to it, LinkedIn training, and access to me for one-on-one coaching throughout the entire 6-month period. For this session today, if you want to take advantage of this, send me an email with a subject line informed. I'll send you an enrollment form, and we can get off and running with this. Send the email to my primary email. It's on the website, taylormadeleadership.com, or send it to rtaylor@taylormadeleadership.com. And again, very much look forward to having a chance to work together and to really solve that bottleneck problem for so many people in business today that don't struggle with the client meetings. They struggle to get more meetings. So we got you out of here in a decent amount of time. I'd like to open up the phones and take questions from anyone that is here. If you have questions, you can unmute your microphone, and glad to field any questions. Go ahead.
Good morning, Randy. It's Dan here. You got a sec?
Yes, I do.
This is not a question. It's more of a comment to your audience today.
Right.
I've been working with Randy for a while, and I actually just did one of these 2 days ago, I think it was, Randy, on Monday.
Yep.
Or Tuesday, sorry. And just from Tuesday, I already have 3 potential client meetings booked.
Wow.
Between this week and next week. And I had 2 other people reach out to me who have a number of clients of their own that they think should listen to me based on the topic we talked about. So within a week, I have got 3 client meetings and 2 center of influence meetings just from our interview on Tuesday.
That's fantastic. That, it was really one of the great struggles that I watched. Thanks for sharing that. It's, it really, it's something that I hear quite consistently, with this system. And I mean, I'll be honest, where this really came from, okay, was the fact that I was doing, a lot of private coaching with senior advisors. And one of the challenges, and I'm the behavior guy, right? I'm the person who, consistently works with people to begin to alter the behaviors to allow them to consistently just do the things that need to be done. And new business development, regardless of your tenure in business, is something that is consistently needed by every one of us. And so I was working with this one very senior client, and this challenge kept going on and on, that, he would start doing the work and the marketing plans and structures that we came up with, and then he would fall off. And, the excuses were always there that he got busy and he got busy. And this light bulb went off. I'm a pretty smart guy. It only took me 20 years to figure this out, that is such a challenge for everyone in business. It's that struggle to always fill the funnel. And so from that struggle and conversation and the rest of it, that's how Informed came to be, to marry, this background in broadcasting, and to have the credibility as an interviewer, and then create this interview, with clients to be able to share with potential prospects that really cut through, all of the other noise and what is required in selling, because the interview is not selling you. At the end of the interview, I simply ask the person that I'm interviewing, would you mind if we shared your contact information if people had questions and wanted to reach out to you? And leave it at that. There is no selling that goes on. But because, like Dan, his message was very compelling, then, people saw the value into it and wanted to reach out and have conversations with him. And so it really, for me, address that pain point with so many people in business of how do we consistently get in front of more and more prospects. And again, that, that number that came out of the research from a short while back, that the average person sees between 6,000 to 10,000 messages a day. It is just absolutely crushing to, to be able to think that is, what the average person is, is struggling with. So that was, what went into the, the creation of this. Any other questions, comments about this, what your own experience is? Just unmute your microphone. Go ahead.
Randy, John Cruz.
Hi, John.
Question about the prep. What sort of, just kind of walk me through the lead into the actual interview itself, as far as getting obviously you've got a great setup there. Not everyone has a similar office setup that you do. As far as getting set up, having a pre-conversation as to what topic we're going to be talking about, how long it'll be, like just like basically just walk me through everything leading right up until we actually start interviewing for real.
Sure. So every person that I'm going to be working with, they're the person to determine the secret sauce, right? What is it that, what business are you in? Hello?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, financial services.
Okay, so financial services. So, I would, in a first meeting, sit down and say, what is specific about your approach? What is specific about your style of investment? What is specific about the products that you handle, or the niche market, or, what for you is the secret sauce? When you sit down with a prospect, what is that one thing that you are absolutely confident when you're allowed to have the conversation, then it goes pretty well, right? So that will go into the determining of what it is, whether it's a niche, whether it's a product, whether it's an approach, an investment style, whatever that is. And so from that, we would then define what the topic is, right? So this is what you're very, very good at. So in the marketplace today, it would be, people below 40 who have not, started an investment plan yet. And I would do some research from the internet and from the media to define that, over 70% or 80% of people below 40 have not even started an investment plan. Joining us today, John Cruz is joining us on the show to talk about the necessity of investment and the long-term strategies and the payoffs. So that becomes kind of the forward-facing topic to the public to say, this is the topic and this is why we're doing it. The next step in this, in the interview, is to start out with your why. I've always found that, and again, in 20 years of broadcasting, regardless if I was, interviewing a prime minister or a business owner or a scientist, I think it becomes so much more interesting when we find out the person, their why. Why did they get into this business? It's, it allows us to humanize the person. So in financial services, is there a story? And there almost always is. Why did you get into this business? Then beyond that, you would define for us, what are the key points that you want to discuss in the interview? So this is kind of reverse engineering and saying, so what the topic is, what your secret sauce is. So imagine that you are sitting down with a client for, a 45-minute or an hour or 2-hour meeting. What are the things you want to touch on? What are the elements of your first client meeting that really are essential to get out? So once we know all of those elements that you want to discuss, then the interview is reverse engineered to ask you the questions that will elicit the answers that you want to be able to provide. And so that's typically how the process goes. And so then all the questions are written, they're shared with you. One final going over of the questions, any changes or alterations to the interview. We would then book the interview time and location and space. It's done remotely. We use a new piece of software called StreamYard, which looks quite it's hard to see. I put it on a slide here. It's difficult to see it, but this is what StreamYard looks like. This is it's very much kind of a television studio in doing this. So that typically is what it will look like, kind of a TV studio when you watch CNN or any of the shows like that, and you'll see them being interviewed remotely. So we'll help with lighting and setting up cameras and things like that. Being in your office is absolutely fine. It's not, you don't have to be in a studio like this, and people rarely are when they're being interviewed remotely in the media. So then the interview is done, it's recorded. Length of time is typically in the 8 to 9, 10, maybe at the outside 12-minute mark, because you want to be able to, to make this information consumable. Lots of people would say, well, why don't you make it 90 seconds or 3 minutes? It's like, well, you know what, we need to be able to provide a sufficient amount of time to be able to suss out the idea and the concept and find out more about you as a person and the rest of it. So it's kind of in that 10-minute mark. Then it goes off to post-production, where all the final editing and graphics and things are put on it. Then it's shared with you. Then you are enrolled in the LinkedIn training system. And then you're off and running, right? To be able to put this on your website, on all your social media pages, share it with all of your clients, your prospects, family members, and then begin working on, consistent strategies, sharing this with your centers of influence. And again, the approach to this that I think is so important is to not, when you have the interview, not share it with people and say, oh, you need to find this out about TFSAs. I did this interview, right? Just share the interview with them and say, this kind of came out of the blue. This, broadcasting guy, rtaylor, he's got the show called Informed. He asked me if I would come on as an expert and speak about TFSAs. And it was pretty fun and exciting, to be honest. I don't know if I might have been a little bit nervous. Can you, do me a favor and watch this and let me know how you think I did, right? And so in being able to do that, there's nothing about it that's sales. And when that happens, the person that's viewing it, they're going to view it as an interview, and they're not going to be guarded like, when somebody shows up at your door with with a clipboard. And so they're going to watch the interview, and they're actually going to hear you. And if your message is compelling and you're good at what you do, which you probably are, how many years you've been in business?
20.
Okay, then chances are you're pretty good at this, right? You wouldn't be 20 years in business if you weren't. So, having someone to actually sit in a relaxed state and hear all of your messaging, what you would typically discuss in a first client meeting, is magic. Because if it applies to them, guess what? At the end of the interview, they're probably going to go, geez, that guy's, he's talking to me. I should pick up the phone and, and have a conversation and have a cup of coffee with this person. And so, therein lies the process, the approach, how it's structured, how it's put together. And the one thing that I will say that, in designing this and putting this together that really mattered to me is that in a world, of absolutely over-promising and under-delivering, I personally feel this is probably the most honest form of marketing you could possibly have, because it's just you. This is you. You're being interviewed. And when I do the interviews, I become this guy. I'm not there to, to hand softball questions and promote and the rest of it. Whatever the topic is, I really want to find out significant information about this specific topic. And in doing that, the interview becomes believable. And the honesty comes from the fact that it's just you. And there's no, enormous promises being made. Do you like the person? Do they sound educated? Do they sound knowledgeable? Do they sound like they have solutions that may be able to help you? And so at the end of the day, that's what this process is about, and the structure.
One follow-up question that just popped in mind. Compliance. What we have to be very careful what we say under what banner, whether, like, I've got two trade names, one for financial planning and one for portfolio management. Obviously compliance keeps an eye on what we say, what we put out there, LinkedIn and across the board. What steps prior to or after, whatever, ideally prior to, so we're not wasting time, do we go through from a compliance standpoint?
Yeah, I've had many people in business, as a lot of people probably know, I do a lot of work with financial services and insurance. And yeah, the compliance piece is important. It's pretty simple. Once the interview is done and it's ready, they send before we record it, they send a list of all the questions and your potential answers off to compliance. I haven't had anyone turn down, because again, you're not making promises as an advisor, you're discussing a topic, right? And you're providing knowledge to people. I haven't had anyone come back. The only thing that did come back was if I called someone an expert, sometimes the organization would come back and say, you can't say you're an expert, or they, I gave them a title, or they gave themselves a title and they said, no, you have to change the title. Those are the only changes that have come back. But good point. Send it off in advance and be able to do that.
Thank you.
Randy, I can comment on that.
Okay.
Being I've been working with you for a little bit. I've had a couple sessions, and just like Randy said, we had an idea. We knew what the questions were going to be. I sent them to our compliance team, and I think our compliance team is bigger than the sales teams now. And
Pretty much. Yeah.
and the reality of it is the questions are very general, and you're not actually talking about a specific product. So compliance was okay with it on every occasion that I went back to them.
Does that help, John?
Yeah, no, it'll be obviously what you and I determined we're going to talk about, and then yeah, I just got to put it to compliance.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
There was a question from someone. What is the software called? I'm assuming it's my software, my training software. It's called a Touchpoint system. It was a software system that I had created a number of years ago to deliver training and development programs to individuals that contacts them every day with follow-up and accountability. Anyway, it's called Touchpoint to be able to do that. That or could be the software of the recording, which is called StreamYard. So if that was it, have to go to a meeting. Thank you. See, they were recording this. Yeah, there will be a recording provided for this. Any other questions, comments?
Hi, Randy.
Hello.
It's Judith here.
Hi, Judith.
Hi. You know what? I'm actually in the process of just developing some marketing and was looking at, actually, I'm about 5 minutes away from contacting a video company that I had worked with prior.
Yep.
And I thought I'd listen to your call, and I'm now saying, hey, wait a minute, I like your approach. So I have sent you an email. Hopefully we can connect. I think this process is fabulous, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you.
That's great. And again, I'll be very, very honest. I'm not a marketing guy, right? I own a training and development company, and I'm a keynote speaker and behavioral expert and all the rest of it. It was just, I kept seeing this problem with clients again and again and again, that it was just, and progressively getting more and more difficult to get in front of people. And this light bulb just went off, and I thought, what if I use this credibility? And as an interviewer, I'm very good at this, right? And so the credibility for me, and conversely for you, to be able to share this message with people that it's not about sales, it's topic driven. There's tremendous, good information that's provided in the interviews. And if you're good at what you do, it's going to cause your phone to ring. But without this, it wouldn't carry that much weight. I mean, I could, provide videos for people and do this. I'm good at this, and I have all the equipment and everything set up. But being able to say, I'm this guy, it changes it. It changes, for the person watching, it changes the psychology of, their approach to this, right? Because they're not thinking anything other than, this is interesting. People watch Joe Rogan. It's interesting, right? He's a great host. He has amazing guests on. And again, I'm confident millions of people reach out to his guests because they gave good answers, and, they provided great information. So I'm looking forward to following up and working together. That's great.
Randy, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
My name's David. So what is the duration of the final product, like the time duration? And then when we get the final product, is it possible to use like snippets for, just posting on different media platforms?
Yep, 100%. It's yours. You own it completely. The duration of it, again, are you talking the duration of the video itself, or?
Yeah, the duration of the video, like the final product that would get so.
So, 10 to 12 minutes. If you wanted it to be longer, once we're all set up and we're going, I mean, if the interview was 15 minutes or 20 minutes, I think to make it consumable, better to keep it around the 10-minute mark. But if if we finish the interview and then you wanted, a couple of other points covered that you could use, as you say, in snippets for other social media, platforms and things like that, we can do that and then just send you all the video. but know it's yours.
That's great. Thank you very much.
All right. $595. It's like a $2,000 saving almost. So pretty significant. And just send me an email, put the word informed in the subject line and send it to my direct email. It's rtaylor@taylormadeleadership.com. And look forward to chatting with you soon. To everyone who took the time, I know your lives are busy. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And hope to chat soon. Have an amazing day and be well.